Deontay Wilder gets his next fight. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you guys smash the like button. Also subscribe to the channel. Now, some people may not like this video. I don't really care. I'm just going to give my quick thoughts on the fight. Wilder has a hometown fight. He'll be fighting in Birmingham, Alabama, February 25th against an opponent who doesn't have a huge name. He's a Polish fighter. His name is Andrzej Wawrzyk. Something like that. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. And that's what it is. Now, I got to break this down because there's a lot of people saying, oh, why is Wilder fighting this guy? Bottom line is this. Anytime fans don't know about a fighter, it's not like a huge name, then automatically it's a bum. Now, I'm gonna keep it real with you guys. When I first heard who he was fighting, I'm like, who? And I had to jog my memory. But I did see Alexander Povetkin versus Andrzej Wawrzyk, and he got knocked out in that fight. That's his sole loss. He has like 30 wins. And just to keep it a buck with you guys, his sole loss is to Alexander Povetkin of Russia, who in 1 year, less than a calendar year, probably 6 to 8 months, tested positive twice. So I'm not even sure if we should count this as a loss, because I don't know if Povetkin has always been on something when he had his best wins. You know what I'm saying? And that's just real. You create that black cloud for yourself when you test positive twice in 1 year, or when it comes out that you tried to cheat. Like Antonio Margarito, did he knock out Sergio Martinez? Was he doing the Paris of plaster loaded wraps then or not? You know what I'm saying? You don't really know those things. Did he do it for the Cotto fight? Was it just the Mosley fight? So as far as I'm concerned, his sole loss to Povetkin, that's kind of in question. It has an asterisk by it. And at first I was like, who's he fighting? Because I thought it was like possibly going to be Hughie Fury. But in real time, being realistic, I'm not saying I'm an advocate like this is the fight I wanted to see. I'm not going to lie and say, oh, this is the fight I was checking for. Out of all the heavyweight fights, this is the fight I would want to see. But some of y'all aren't realistic, so it doesn't matter anyway. And some of you guys have hatred towards certain fighters, and it shows anytime there's a decision. Like, it could be another fighter fighting mandatories or whatever, and then you give them a benefit of the doubt, like, oh, that's just mandatory, or whatever the situation. But if you hate the fighter, then just like always, boxing fans are going to side with whoever they like and dislike. Now, the thing with this is, the reason why I'm okay with this fight is because, one, it'll probably be on free TV. Two, the most important factor, Wilder is coming off of a pretty long layoff. He's been pretty active normally. But in his last replacement fight, which I'm going to talk about, with Chris ARREOLA over the summer this year, he had a hand injury, fractured his hand. I posted the video. You can see it. There's metal pins being removed from his hand, and he's coming off of an injury. So you got to be realistic. Of course, I want to see Wilder, Joshua Wilder, King Kong Ortiz, and all these other fights. But you got to be realistic. You know what I'm saying? Half of the people that leave these comments, they don't even know what's going on. Like, I cover boxing. I have a website. I have 50,000 plus fans on multiple platforms, Instagram, YouTube. I'm well in tune with what's going on in the sport of boxing. So you could throw out a million different names, but you don't know all of the parameters. Some people, oh, what about Tyson Fury? Okay, he's in rehab right now. Oh, what about Cannon Briggs? Cannon Briggs has an opportunity to fight against, I don't know who his actual opponent is, but I heard of two people for the WBA regular belt. It was supposed to be Lucas Brown, but he failed a drug test for the second time, just like Alexander Povetkin. Another person, failed 2 drug tests. So, you know what I mean? You start going down the list, and I don't know the details. There's other people, like, let's say, Dillian White. I don't know. Maybe he would be an option. I wanted to see Hughie Fury, possibly. But, I mean, I wouldn't even favor Hughie Fury to beat Wilder anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the other thing. People say all these names, and, like, how many of these guys would you really pick to beat Wilder? You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't pick Hughie Fury. Like, he's solid, but I wouldn't pick him. That's just me personally. And same thing with even Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker has a good canvas, but he just won his first fight against someone who's a little bit shorter than him, Andy Ruiz, a heavy hitter. Don't get it twisted. The destroyer. But he just won a split decision. So people are like, oh, why doesn't Wilder fight Joseph Parker? He said he won the fight. At this point, him having one solid name, winning via split decision, would you honestly, in your heart of all hearts, pick Joseph Parker against Deontay Wilder? Would you pick him to beat him? Like, I still seen room for improvement from what I've seen. Some people argue that Andy Ruiz Jr. beat him. You know what I mean? Nonetheless, no one got knocked down. Or it wasn't like it was an emphatic beatdown where, you know what I mean, Joseph Parker just schooled Andy Ruiz. So, I mean, I think he has room to grow. That's what I'm trying to say. Wilder has far more pro-level experience than him. You guys can say whatever you want. Maybe he's ready, maybe he's not. But a lot of you guys just throw out names and they're not even, oh, why doesn't he fight Joshua? Because Joshua's fighting Klitschko at Wembley. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know all the details. I'm not Wilder's manager. I'm not Al Heyman. I'm not his advisor or anything like that. But I know some of the people for a fact it wouldn't be feasible or logical. Like I said, Cannon Briggs. Cannon Briggs would probably fight Wilder, but he's on the verge of a title shot. And it's going to be against a lesser opponent than Wilder. Wilder's a champion. The person he's going to fight, I forgot the names that I seen mentioned, but there's two names being mentioned to replace Lucas Brown. And they're not champions. You know what I'm saying? So why wouldn't he stay on his track? It's just like kind of like Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence is on the IBF route at welterweight. So why would he do something else to fight somebody else? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense. He's already on track to get a title. Same thing with Cannon Briggs. So it is what it is. And like I said, most important thing, you guys, oh, you're making excuses. Some of you guys are flat out idiots. And you could never manage fighters because your fighters would either die in the ring or they'd have very short shelf lives because the decisions, if they did everything that you guys said you wanted them to do in the comment section, trust me, they would have a really short shelf life. It's just like Bernard Hopkins. I said this post-fight. I'm not making any excuse. Shout out to Joe Smith Jr. But coming off of a 2-year layoff and being mocked up pretty much by Kovalev in his last fight, that wasn't sensible to fight a younger, stronger, bigger, mass-wise Joe Smith Jr. who had the momentum of the Fanfara knockout in one round, the upset momentum, and then B-Hop just got in there and you've seen what happened. He looked slower, he looked sluggish, and ultimately he got knocked outside of the damn ring. You know what I'm saying? So fighters and fight fans, as much as we want to see all these fights, you got to be realistic. You know what I'm saying? B-Hop should have definitely, if he wanted to fight Joe Smith Jr., he should have took like at least a tune-up fight and then fought Joe Smith Jr. But, I mean, he pushed it. You know what I mean? Being a throwback old school fighter, he's like, oh, there's vulnerabilities that I can exploit in Joe Smith Jr. He's not that good, but it's different. When you took a beating in your last fight to Kovalev, and then you take 2 years off, you're not in the same shape. It's hard. Like, you can be in pretty good shape, but it's hard to compete at a high level. So, I mean, realistically, you guys can say whatever you want, but career-wise, this makes sense for Deontay Wilder to fight somebody coming off of an injury that's, and this is the other thing, again, because you don't know the people, the dude is ranked number 12 with the WBC, so he's still top 15 just because you haven't heard of him. You know what I'm saying? So he's still a top 15 opponent. It's heavyweight division where, I mean, the guy has a pretty good knockout percentage where one punch could change it. You know what I'm saying? Who knows? It's just funny to me because a lot of y'all don't know shit about boxing. People, oh, why is Wilder fighting Johann Duhaupas, right? And Duhaupas came to scrap, had a full training camp, and gave Wilder a busted eye, and then finally got stopped, I think, in the 11th round. Meanwhile, Povetkin fails 2 drug tests, and they put Johann Duhaupas in there. So why was it okay for somebody who cheated twice in 1 year to fight Johann Duhaupas and knock him out? But when Wilder fought Duhaupas, you know what I'm saying? So basically, Povetkin's fighting Wilder's leftovers. I mean, same thing with Anthony Joshua. I love Anthony Joshua. But he fought Charles Martin, who was pretty unproven because the glass coffee, he twisted his leg up or whatever. And trust me, I really fuck with Anthony Joshua, and I think he's down to fight anyone. But this is just facts. We're doing facts only. Glasgow fell, twisted up his leg. Charles Martin got the title, and then Joshua faced him, blasted him out of this world. Now he's doing these crazy videos. Then I think he fought Dominic Brazil, who had a tough time with Amir Mansour. I never personally rated Brazil that high. He was undefeated. He was taller than Joshua. He was confident before the fight. So, you know what I mean? You still got to give him credit for that. And then he fought Deontay Wilder leftovers, Eric Molina, a guy that Wilder had already stopped. Chris Arreola had already stopped. And that was his title defense. So, I mean, realistically, what's the difference? Like, how can you praise Anthony Joshua for fighting Eric Molina after Wilder stopped him, after Arreola stopped him, but Wilder coming off of an injury, a hand injury at that, you know what I mean? That's how they make their living with their fist. And he's fighting a guy who's only been stopped once by Alexander Povetkin and is a power puncher. That's egregious. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys got to be realistic. And then furthermore, he was slated, like, okay, you want to see him fight a top 5 name or whatever. He was slated to fight against Povetkin. And through no fault of Wilder's, Povetkin couldn't pass a drug test and later couldn't pass again. You know what I'm saying? So who is he supposed to fight? I mean, you could throw out Bermane Stiverne, but Stiverne's been kind of inactive and he already beat him. So, you know what I'm saying? At least this is just a fresh face, and it's, again, more so they probably want to test it. And I'm highly consistent. Kell Brook, he got stabbed in the leg, had a bit of layoff. They didn't know what his mobility was going to be like. So he fought a guy who had no chance in hell, which we all knew, which was Jojo Dan, his mandatory. And he fought him coming off an injury. I mean, realistically speaking, you have to be fair. You know what I'm saying? Kell Brook's not going to come off and fight Amir Khan off of after he got stabbed, or fight Keith Thurman. It's not realistic. As much as we love the bloodlust and the great matches, you got to be realistic. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like the Pacquiao injury. When Pacquiao fought Floyd, nobody knew of this alleged injury until like the press conference, because nothing Pacquiao was doing in the fight showed that he was hurt. He was throwing bombs and trying. He just wasn't landing, and you know what I'm saying? He couldn't corner Floyd like he wanted to for the duration of the fight. But he was you know what I'm saying? He was doing all that. And then we find out later, allegedly his shoulder is hurt and the ocean salt water healed it. You know what I'm saying? That's not the case for Wilder. Immediately after the Chris Arreola fight, which again, he only fought Arreola because another man, Povetkin, couldn't fail a drug test, or couldn't pass a drug test, which he later failed again that same year. You know what I'm saying? And he beat Chris Arreola through stoppage. I didn't even know nothing was wrong with his hand because he was throwing bombs, and he had a good jab in that particular fight, etc. And after the Arreola fight, you can see him wincing when they're taking the gloves off. Go watch the playback. I have a pretty good memory. And I remember, I was like, what the hell's wrong with him? Because he was like, fuck. Like, he was like saying fuck and like wincing and like making his face. And then he was like, the way he was holding his hand. And then he revealed immediately that something was wrong with his hand. This was no mystery. So we all know something's wrong with his hand. So if you think he's just going to come back and fight King Kong Ortiz off of a hand injury, a fracture or whatever with metal pins, it's just not realistic. So, I mean, I would give anybody the same path. Like, put it this way, like Canelo. You think Canelo's going to come back and fight Golovkin first fight? No, he's not. He's got a hand injury. And trust me, Canelo's hand injury is a lesser injury. He didn't have to get metal pins and all this. He has like a thumb fracture, I think it is. You know what I mean? And I guarantee you, Canelo's not going to come back and fight the most powerful guy in the new division he's moving to, like Golovkin. I just don't see it happening. You know what I'm saying? And if he does, then shout out to him. I don't think that's wise to do that. So let me know what you guys think. Wilder, of course, like I said, I'm not saying this is the best fight that everyone's looking for. Obviously, Wilder fighting at home is going to be a huge favorite, but you got to be realistic. Who would you like out of these Huey Furies and Dillian Whites and Joseph Parker? Like, honestly, do you think any of those guys would be the one to beat him? You know what I'm saying? That plus be realistic with his hand injury. Let me know what you guys think. Drop in the comment section. Make sure you like the video as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video, Ego signing off.